Good morning, friends. Anne here, got my cup of coffee, got the Word of God, and today's reading is from John chapter 11, verses 32 through 37. But friends, this passage that we're going to focus on is a part of a bigger narrative. So let me explain to you what's going on in John chapter 11. So John chapter 11 talks about the story of Lazarus, Mary, and Martha. This was a friend of Jesus. This was a family that was well connected to Jesus, and Jesus considered some of his closest friends. And he was away. He got word that Lazarus was sick from Mary and Martha, who were his sisters. And Jesus said this when he found out. When he heard this, Jesus said, "This sickness will not end in death. No, it is for God's glory, so that God's Son may be glorified through it." Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus, yet when he heard that Lazarus was sick, he stayed where he was 2 more days. Friends, Jesus had already said that Lazarus' sickness would not end in death, but then he stayed where he was 2 more days. And by the time he got to the sisters, Lazarus had been in the tomb for 4 days. And Martha ran out to meet him, and she said, "Jesus, if you would have been here, my brother would not have died." And Jesus says, "I am the resurrection and the life." And then he continues on, and he sees Mary, who is still grieving in her home. And this is the encounter between them. It says this in verse 32, "When Mary reached the place where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet and said, 'Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died.' That when Jesus saw her weeping, the Jews who had come along with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in his spirit and troubled. 'Where have you laid him?' he asked. 'Come and see, my Lord,' they replied. Jesus wept. Then the Jews said, 'See how he loved him.' But some of them said, 'Could not he who opened the eyes of the blind man have kept this man from dying?' Well, actually, Jesus could have. And he, in this moment, was so stirred with emotion, so stirred with empathy for what Mary and Martha and everyone who loved Lazarus was experiencing. Jesus went on to be true to his word. He did raise Lazarus from the dead. And there was this beautiful reunion and rejoicing. And I can only imagine what it must have been like to be in that place. But friends, the thing that I want us to note here is that empathy is something that Jesus himself demonstrated. Notice that it talked about how he was feeling. He was deeply moved in spirit and troubled. He wasn't just, "I feel sorry for you," or he wasn't just saying, "Dry it up because I'm about to do something miraculous and wonderful." And then we even see that it moved Jesus to tears. Friends, empathy isn't weakness. It's actually becoming more like Jesus. Jesus wasn't sad because Lazarus had died, because he knew he was going to bring Lazarus back to life. He was feeling the pain and the grief and the loss that Mary and Martha and the rest of Lazarus' friends were feeling. Jesus was empathetic. He put himself in that place where he could feel the pain, where he could be moved with grief, where he could weep and cry with the people that he was present with. Friends, empathy isn't weakness. It's actually showing that we are becoming more like Jesus. Have a good day.